Hey everyone, welcome back to the Frontline track. Thank you so much for spending your lovely spring Saturday afternoon with us. My name is LJ. I use she and her pronouns. I am here in Brooklyn, New York on occupied Lenape territory, and I am so proud to be a training coordinator here at the Frontline. So today I'm going to talk to you about de-escalation. Cue slide, please. All right, so here to talk about de-escalation. We're going to start real quick, just on a practical legal note. Next slide, with a little disclaimer that just says, hey, I'm not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice. And also, I can't guarantee that you can be completely safe using my suggestions. So what I'm going to offer you is some techniques and wisdom that I have gathered over the past 15 years as a direct action organizer, and hope that you can use these in typical situations, right? We're not going to cover every situation or very extreme situations, but hopefully if you follow some of these guidelines and suggestions, things won't escalate to an extreme situation. Next slide, please. So today's agenda is that we're going to practice some situational awareness, talk about what de-escalation is. I'm going to show you this cool tool called SALT. We're going to talk about managing yourself and then managing your situation, managing the situation at hand, and then go through some verbal de-escalation techniques. And I'm just going to end with a short word on getting creative and the wonders that humor can do in difficult situations. Next slide, please. So we're going to start off with a game that I invented in the Zoom era to get you to practice situational awareness. So situational awareness is two things. First, it's being aware of your surroundings and practicing peripheral vision. Second, situational awareness is being able to remember things that you only saw briefly. So lots of times we walk around during the day like, do on my phone, let me check my Instagram, let me just make sure not to trip, but then we show up in very high stress situations, like polling locations or at protests, and we need to flip that switch on, right, and turn on our situational awareness because things might happen and we're flooded with stimuli. So situational is a muscle, so I want us to work it out together a little bit. So here's how the game goes. I'm going to show you a picture, and you're going to have 3 seconds to look at it. Then you're going to tell people in the chat box what you saw. So tell us as many things that you remember seeing in just those 3 seconds. Okay? So first up, we're going to look at an image. And next slide, please. Okay, 3 seconds here. What do you see? We're in the jungle. 3, 2, 1, next slide, perfect. Okay, so can you please throw some stuff into the chat box? Tell us what you saw, what you remember. Okay, so I'm seeing Ross from Arizona said he saw some butterflies and flamingos, monkeys, a waterfall. Did anybody see any other animals? Right, there were some trees, there were some parrots, lots going on in that scene. So we're gonna look at another image. We're gonna play the same game. So next slide. All right, we're here in some weird British eccentrics, haunted greenhouse. What do you see? 3 seconds. Okay, next slide. Lots going on here, right? What did you see? Kathy Lynn, what did you see? Okay, there was like a knight, and there was like an old gown, a treasure chest. Okay, lots happening in that scene. So feel free to throw anything in the chat box, and then I want to go and move to one more image. So next slide, please. Now here we're at an actual polling location in Pennsylvania. So everybody take 3 seconds, notice as much as you can. What might go wrong? Where might there be confusion? What do you need to keep tabs on? Okay, so what did you see there? It was a lot to take in. Want to shout out Kathy Lynn, who noticed the glowing door and the dinosaur in the last image. Shout out Kathy Lynn, right? So then we get to the polling location, and it's actually not all that different from the crazy jungle scene, right? There's a complicated line, there are security guards, right? There's a lot happening. And I think that you guys see where I'm going here, right? Is that these high stakes situations like protests or voting, there's a lot happening. And so when people ask me what de-escalation is, I like to say that it's prevention. It's being able to see and absorb what's around you, being able to take lots of things in, and just being a good human who can be available to help sort out any confusion or interrupt any potential conflict or frustration. So next slide, please. Right, so de-escalation is about interrupting tension. So if you can't prevent it, be prepared to interrupt it. Please let go of your desire to resolve any conflict. We all know from our own lives with parents and family and friends and partners that resolving conflict can take a little while, right? So let go of your instinct to try to make everything better and just focus on interrupting the conflict. Create safety where you're able to, right? Be a manager. You really need to live into yourself as like a manager, right? You're not here to play arbiter of who's right and who's wrong. You're just here to create as much safety as you can. And so I really like to talk about de-escalation as a practice of grounding, because when something happens, something pops off, tensions really rise, and everyone's attention just zooms in to the thing that is happening, to the conflict. Maybe there's a confrontation between police and a protester, but there's this moth to a flame situation. And so what you want to do is just kind of help ground the situation by grounding yourself, grounding the people you're here with, whether it's bystanders, whether it's just your neighbors voting, right? Just try to bring the energy back down so the energy is not all over the place, right? Because you can't bring an agitator or an agitated person into a grounded place unless you are already grounded yourself. Next slide, please. So I like this. I really like this. I like to call de-escalation vibes management, right? You're just here to make sure that the energy is good, that energy is safe, and that people are feeling empowered and powerful, right? To take action, whether it's at a protest, whether it's at a polling location, or maybe you're just on the subway, right? Things happen in public space all the time, especially in this moment where there's so much at stake, right? So de-escalation is vibes management. Next slide, please. Okay, so you might be in any situation, right? And somebody is agitated. I think it's important that we not assume that everybody is always trying to do harm. A lot of times people are showing up with hurt feelings. There's confusion or frustration. I think the experience just of being not listened to can be very provocative to us, right? But also the reality is, and as Daryl and Sean were just talking about, there are some people that want to do harm. So it's important that we assess agitators. The reason that it's important for us to assess agitators is that when we feel threatened or scared or small, our emotions go into overdrive. And then we can't actually assess the situation accurately. Even in really small situations. Like the other day I was trying to work, and outside there was some construction happening, and it sounded like there were 50 jackhammers because I couldn't focus and I was getting very frustrated. It was really only one jackhammer and 2 workers who were just trying to do their job. But even in normal situations, when an emotion kicks in, we no longer see the situation as it actually is, right? So we want to be able to do an accurate assessment for ourselves, but also so that you can communicate to other people, right? You should never try to do de-escalation at a protest alone. So have a team member, and this is a really handy tool to communicate to your team member what's actually happening. And this tool is called SALT. And shout out to Sean for teaching me this tool. So SALT is just an acronym for this assessment. So the S is for size. How many people are there and who are they, right? If I call up Ace and I say, can you get over here? There's a big group of scary guys. That doesn't really give him a lot of information, right? So size, how many people are there and what are they and who are they? The A is for activity. What are they doing? And actually, I think that this is the thing that we are most unable to articulate when we are scared or feel threatened, right? Examples of activities could be people are circling voters with signs. People are driving around the parking lot, right? People are yelling, but then they're leaving and then they're coming back and yelling again. So try to be specific about the activity. The L is for location, right? Where are the agitators right now? And if possible, where did they come from and where are they going? And the T is for time, right? Time is another thing that gets a little bit loose when we are in our feelings, right? And everybody knows this. You're feeling scared, time can feel like it's really long, even if it's just 5 minutes. So take a note, look at your phone or your watch. What time did the people show up? How long have they been here? This kind of information is really helpful to communicate to your team members or just your friends or whoever you're out there with. So next slide. So managing yourself. So as I said at the beginning, you can't accompany anybody who is agitated into that calm space if you are not already in that calm space. A friend of mine once told me, nobody ever calms down from being told, calm down. And it's totally true, right? So you have to start with yourself and kind of embody that grounded energy. You can't diffuse a situation if you are not already there. So before you intervene in anything, check in with yourself. And so here's a way to do that. It's called the ABCs. Next slide, please. So the ABCs. A is just assess yourself. Am I prepared to intervene? Do I feel confident enough? Do I feel grounded enough? Do I need to actually ask somebody else to come over and provide some support because maybe I'm not in a headspace right now to be able to interrupt some conflict? If I do decide that I am the right person to intervene, right, the second thing I'm going to do is breathe. Count to 10, slow down your breath, and remember why you're here. Identify a goal for what you want to do. My goal is to get these 2 people to stop shouting at each other. And then my second goal is to get that woman over there to go back to her car, right? Have a concrete goal, because otherwise, if you just start intervening and you don't actually have a goal, things can go off the rails pretty quickly. The C is for choosing how you get involved, right? Don't just run out of instinct. We all have a fight, a flight, or a freeze reaction. Mine is the fight reaction. I am very quick to intervene. So really be thoughtful about choosing how to get involved. Then we're gonna de-escalate. We're gonna talk about that next. And then I added the E to escalate only if this helps reach your goal. And I'll give you an example. I was in Washington, D.C. shortly before the pandemic. There was a protest happening and there were two really big guys who were getting into it, right? I'm not a very big person. I'm a woman. I don't think people find me particularly threatening. And so I was able to come in there and actually raise my voice, right? And try to break them physically apart. But the way I was able to escalate because neither of those guys would see me as a threat. So you want to be thoughtful about escalating, about when you raise your voice, about when you assert power, because it can be strategic to do so, but you also don't want to come out there and embody the kind of toxic behavior of the police, or of like a kind of oppressive energy, right? That is the one that we're actually trying to fight against. So next slide, please. So managing the situation, right? Situational awareness is the first step in this, is knowing all of the different factors in the situation, right? So once you're there, let's say we're at a polling location, we want you to know, it feels like there's some confusion around which way the line is. Or it sounds like some people are frustrated from standing on line for too long. So you want to already know what the factors are that could cause a situation to escalate. So some ways of managing the situation we're going to talk about. Next slide. But first is to not lose sight of why you're here. Remember why you're here. Whether it is a protest or a polling location, or it's just a community event or an organizing meeting, right? Focus on the people you're fighting for, not the people you're fighting against, right? We spend a lot of our time already during the day reading news about the alt-right, reading about Trump supporters. Thankfully, I think we're starting to actually let go and shed some of that obsession with the news and Trump, but focus on who you're fighting for, and remember that creating conditions of safety for them is ultimately your goal, and to not get caught up in the noise of people that might be provocative or agitational. So take care of your team, take care of the bystanders, right? Take care of the people that you're here to help stand in solidarity with. So what to say to your team when people are getting scared or agitated or frustrated or feel threatened? Always affirm people's feelings, right? People need to know that what they're feeling is real. You know, I hear you, and it is so real to be scared right now, right? Just affirm that what they're feeling is real. Try to create a situation of distraction. Can you talk to somebody about what's happening? Can you tell me about the new puppy that you just got, right? Are there topics that feel less loaded to talk about that can help calm people down? What would you tell me is a phrase that actually I use a lot in my personal life with my partner, which is, if I were feeling freaked out or overwhelmed, what would you tell me? Another technique of taking care of your team is flipping the script, right? Can you help me? So somebody who is feeling helpless in a moment, all of a sudden can like completely change that energy by being asked to be helpful. So if I'm feeling helpless and Shauna comes over and says, hey, can you help me actually move all these signs and these banners over there? All of a sudden I have shifted out of this helpless place into a place of actually feeling powerful again. And always refer to established norms, you know? Established norms can be things like, we don't raise our voice here, or over here we use people's pronouns that they use. We're here because we want to protest, but we're not here because we're trying to get into, scuffles in the parking lot. Refer to the established norms is a technique of bringing people into something that's larger than themselves. Next slide, please. So now the real meat and potatoes of de-escalation. So direct intervention, right? Something is happening. I have assessed myself. I'm breathing. I'm grounded. I'm ready to intervene and to interrupt. Always use non-threatening body language. I like to talk with my hands a lot. Sometimes that can be too much. So just try to be relaxed, grounded, use active listening, and then really pay attention to the volume you're speaking at. Try to speak slowly, clearly, right? Don't move too quick, especially with your hands, because somebody who's agitated, then might be provoked. And also, just don't talk politics, maybe, right? I think that that's the hardest thing to remember, is that especially when someone maybe has opposing viewpoints, it's so easy to get sucked in to the debate. Avoid the debate. And if direct intervention isn't the strategy you're choosing, go with delaying. Wait it out. If somebody is not if you don't feel like somebody is about to explode or that the situation's about to get out of hand, just try to wait it out. Distraction is another really key strategy, right? Whether it's that bystanders are getting involved or somebody is just, kind of getting in your face, create a distraction and direct attention elsewhere. Delegating. So this is the can you help me moment. Work with a buddy or with allies. We talked a lot about this in preparation for the November election, of getting voters involved, right? Hey, can you help pass out water? Can you help pass out hand warmers? Can you lead people in a chant, right? Delegating is so important, and especially if something does get out of hand, you're not going to be able to handle it yourself. So make sure that you're recruiting other people so that it's a team effort. Create some physical distance between you, bystanders, and the problem, right? If you can just move people along in the march, if you can move people to the other end of the subway car, sometimes the easiest thing to do is just to create some space. And then always, when possible, document, right? Know that showing up and having your camera in someone's face can be very provocative. But if you do feel like something needs to be documented because you might need to give it to a lawyer, or you might need to show it to other organizers that you're working with, document, and if possible, let that person know that you're documenting them, because it's very possible that someone will adapt their behavior knowing that now all of a sudden they're on camera. Next slide, please. We have about 6 minutes. So people are always like, okay, but what actually do I say? What actually do I say? And I like to leave this till the end, because 92% of the communication that we do with other people is through our body language, is through our tone of voice. It's why we talk to babies in this exaggerated way. Oh, aren't you cute? Because we're trying to communicate information without actually relying on words. So I like to leave this till the end. So next slide, please. So these techniques are based off of your ability to assess somebody else's emotional state, and then to meet them in a place that helps diffuse that. So if somebody is exhibiting fear, offer help, right? I can help get you some more clarity on whether this is your polling location, or I can help escort you away from the protest. If somebody is showing frustration, offer empathy is first and foremost. Nobody likes to be frustrated, but also offer some firm boundaries, right? I can see that you are frustrated. I want to help you, but I am unable to leave my team right here, right? Or I am unable to to talk to you for much longer. Hold your boundaries when somebody is frustrated, otherwise things can spiral. If you feel like somebody is trying to manipulate you, this could be somebody who's an alt-right agitator. It could be a police officer, you know. This is the moment to channel your inner DMV clerk. Practice detachment, right? Don't be rude, but just also like emotionally divest from the situation. Just be matter of fact, right? This is what I saw, and just repeat it over and over again. Don't let your emotions fuel the conversation. And then if what you're facing is intimidation, right? If somebody's trying to be intimidating, remind people of consequences, right? I feel like you are trying to intimidate me, and I just want you to know that there are a lot of people right here who are observing what you're doing. So I don't want you to be outright threatening, because that's just not our style. But it is important to remind people that things have consequences. And actually, shout out to Daryl for talking about how hate has consequences, right? So I really appreciate that framing, Daryl. Next slide. So some things that are always useful to have in your toolkit, de-escalation. Just start right off the bat by introducing yourself and asking somebody their name. Because I could then immediately am LJ, this person is immediately Ross, and there's no more, you know, me versus you. All of a sudden we're humans together, right? Start documenting if you feel like things are going to escalate, and remind somebody that you are documenting. Naming the behavior is a very important verbal de-escalation technique, because it's not about interpretation or demonizing somebody. Name somebody's behavior looks like you're raising your voice at me, or you are standing too close to me, right? Not you're being mean. I was going to say something else just then, right. So name the behavior and establish norms. I've already talked about this. And then give options. So for anybody feeling overwhelmed, and many of us can relate to this just in our normal lives, when you feel overwhelmed, it's so much easier to have options. Would you like a glass of water, or would you like to maybe take a walk and we can talk about what's bothering you, right? Give options so that people can immediately see themselves getting out of that escalated place. Next slide, please. And then lastly, get creative. You know, I can tell you from years of experience of race and patriarchy and sexism and homophobia, when there's a conflict happening, doesn't get you very far, right? The example that I love to tell people about is about our friend Ramon, who lives in Mississippi, and after trying to intimidate people who were going to worship at their local mosque, Ramon and his friends got some bubble guns from the dollar store, you know, that just with soap create bubbles, and just would come out, and these guys would be out there with their signs and their Confederate flags, and Ramon and folks would be out there with their bubbles, and it couldn't piss them off because it's bubbles. So it just really kind of shifted the energy. It made the mosque goers and the bystanders just feel like, that's my timer, just feel like it was something that wasn't scary, that there wasn't going to be a conflict pop off, because humor is really good medicine. And so to close us out, next slide, just want to remind you all to be humorous when you can be safe as much as you can be. Thank you so much for coming to my session and to the Frontline track. And please stay in touch.